Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We are powered by CLNS Radio. Today on the show, we're going to do like a somewhat organized but mostly mailbag question and answer thing on the show with our good friend over at Barstool, Reags. Is there a reason you don't go by your real name, Reags?
I mean, not really. I do work a real job, like
right,
a desk job. So, but I mean, it's rare. Like, I work with it. Nobody I work with is younger than a decade older than me, and one of them knows really how to work the internet. So I doubt they'd even find me. But it was just one when I started writing. Like, it was just kind of, no one really goes by their real name at Barstool. I mean, Everyone knows everyone's real name. Like,
well, obviously, like Rear Admiral, that's definitely
right.
His name.
Right, like KFC, like his initials, like
yeah.
It's not hard to figure out real names. Like my last name's Regan. Let's shorten it to Reags. Like, that's what I've been called my entire life. So it's not
right.
It was nothing like that. It was just kind of, well, it's just easier to kind of go by one word. Plus, it makes Twitter a little easier.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd have like 40 characters in my name.
Well, you also, the problem that you run into is that there's Riggs at Barstool and then there's Reags. So like,
he is full time, but I started writing before him. So like when he came on, the joke was just like, we're cousins. Because there's so many times that, I mean, it happened with my UConn blog yesterday. I was on the golf course, and all of a sudden, like, I got a tweet that I could read on the screen of my phone, and someone was just being like, "Nah, you got the wrong person. Riggs is politics." And I was just like, "Sorry, man. Like, sorry you for like tweets in a row." And it happens all the time. It's hilarious. I'm like, guy, I don't know politics. Like, you're tweeting at me about my Trump take. Like, guy, sure. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm the college basketball guy.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I was gonna say that's just it's so funny to see that there are actually like I think quite a few people that other maybe like outside people don't realize go by like pen names, like when they write even.
Yeah. I mean, like, whenever I do like if I ever do like a serious interview, like I'll say my name. Like I have nothing to hide. It's just It's just easier to kind of go by like the shorter name, and again, anyone that for us that aren't full time at Barstool and do work real jobs, it's just easier. Just not necessarily protect yourself, but like, you just never know. It's easier not to have. It's easier not to have a conversation and being like, "Oh, so you're writing? Oh, would you leave for a full-time writing gig?" And it's like, I mean,
there's no way I can answer that question without getting in trouble.
Like, it's the old, like, do you want to hear the right answer, or do you want me to lie to you?
Yeah, and you're just in a dilemma that you don't want to be in that scenario.
Exactly. And I mean, I work with such a small, like, the company I work for is so small, like, it's a really small company, private company, so it's not a big deal. But no real reason outside of that is why I don't go by my real name, which everyone kind of knows anyways.
Yeah. So the first part of our question and answer thing, like I said, it's like semi-structured. You don't even know how I'm going to structure it really outside of the first couple things.
Better that way. Let's get chaos. Let's be Louisville. Let's control chaos.
Yeah. So we're recording at like 3:30 on Sunday, which means the DeMarcus Cousins thing just came from Adrian Wojnarowski over at The Vertical. He says that the Kings have been willing to re-engage in trade talks for DeMarcus Cousins again. He specifically mentioned New Orleans, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. The first question here comes from Boncy Chillups. Fantastic name.
Great name.
At Boncy Chill.
Even better. Shorten it. I love it.
What could Boston do to get DeMarcus Cousins? I think that we can start there with what you think Boston could do to get Cousins.
I mean, it starts and ends with giving up this year's Brooklyn pick. I mean, if that's not included, there's no trade negotiation.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that, and to be honest, it makes me think that because of that, there will be no Celtics Cousins trade. Because
I get it from the Boston side. Like, anytime, like, I think Cousins is probably one of the 15 best players in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, at the minimum, 15 best players. So you'd have to give up, let's say, this year's Brooklyn pick. You probably have to give up another 1 or 2 first rounders, and then like James Young and or Rozier, something along those lines, or maybe you do a Brooklyn pick this year, another first rounder, and like Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, if I'm the Kings, there are a couple things I make sure that I get back. I make sure that I get back the Kings pick or the Nets pick this year.
Pick, yeah.
Yeah. I make sure that I get back Jay Crowder because I think that is one of the, maybe 4 or 5 most valuable contracts in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I think you'd have to get that. You're right.
I would probably shoot for one of Jaylen Brown or the next Nets pick.
Yep.
And then go from there. Otherwise, I wouldn't trade Cousins. I mean, you can sign DeMarcus Cousins for the next 5 years. Like, what's the point? And then also, to be honest, like, I'm not sure Boston's going to be all that interested in DeMarcus Cousins. Like, I don't know if Brad Stevens is going to want to deal with that.
Because then you're running like, well, and I feel like it's also just like a little bit of a weird lineup where you have Isaiah, Boogie, and Horford. Like, it just, I don't know, those 3 just don't feel like a good fit. Yeah. And I'm saying that with zero factual knowledge outside of my gut tells me that.
Well, like, if you're the Celtics and you're known to be this organization that since Danny Ainge has essentially come over that says, we're going to care about having good guys in the locker room. We want guys, and it's funny, like, Rajon Rondo ended up being a less than stellar guy in that regard, but he was able to work well with the guys that they had, and Paul Pierce.
Patrick
and
Sparks
Garnett.
Agrees with you.
Yeah. But what ends up happening there is I think that Ainge cares too much about upsetting the locker room, and I think that just the price that it would take to make it tenable for the Kings kind of throws everything out of whack there. So in that vein, Jeff on Twitter at JLaRosa024 says, what is the best fit for DeMarcus Cousins? He says the Celtics, which we kind of just shot down, but then he says maybe the Suns if they keep Eric Bledsoe in the deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Suns just kind of seem, they're just so, like, the Suns are in better position than the Kings, but the Suns are just a complete rebuilding job right now.
Yeah.
Like Booker, you have Booker as a nice, player to build around. You have Bledsoe, like, you have 2 nice pieces there. But Chris, who knows what he's going to turn into. But it's like, is that really a great fit?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be, like, if I'm Cousins, I'm not, like, thrilled about that. I mean, I'm thrilled to get out of Sacramento to literally anywhere.
Well, I think that Cousins will be pissed if he gets traded right now. Because he's going to be able to sign the designated player veteran extension this summer at 35% of the cap. And he will lose the extra 5%. He'll only be able to sign for 30% of the cap if he gets traded this trade deadline. So I don't think Cousins would be very happy to leave Sacramento right now. I think that he'll probably try and push his way out within the next year, as long as he signs that thing. So, if you're the Kings, do you want to give them that kind of money, or do you want to, just kind of deal with all this? If you give him the money, I feel like it might be a little bit more difficult to trade him, to be honest. Like, yeah, you have him under contract, but that's an awful lot of money to be thrown into one asset. So, what do you do from there? I guess that, like, how do you find the right fit? And I don't know where the right fit for DeMarcus Cousins is. I kind of do think that the Suns make a lot of sense and the Lakers make a decent amount of sense.
Trade Carmelo for him. We're sending him to the Knicks. It's a great fit.
That would be just horrible. I would feel terrible for DeMarcus Cousins. But, like, to be honest, what I would, if you're the Lakers, could you do something like... The
Lakers actually would be a good fit.
Could you do something like Randall and Russell plus another pick for Cousins? Like, does that make sense to you if you want to try and keep Ingram? Could you do, if you're the Suns, would you trade Marquise Chris back home to Sacramento plus, would you have to move Booker? Like, you almost have to move one of Booker or Bledsoe in that deal to make it worthwhile. And
yeah, because unless you trade what, you're not going to trade the Kings wouldn't accept like Chris and Len or something like that.
And Len's a restricted free agent. He's going to get paid this offseason. Like, it's a really tricky tricky concept, I think. And that's why a trade like this, I think, makes a lot more sense later on in the off season, as opposed to having to work with it all right now. Whenever there are teams out there who are trying to shore up smaller needs, as opposed to working on bigger deals right now.
Right.
And I mean, maybe someone like the Lakers or the Suns, they're just trying to roll through stuff, or maybe I'm trying to think of if there's a circumstance where someone weird like the Pistons could get involved, or like could the Wizards get involved if they wanted to totally shake things up and move like Otto Porter plus other stuff. So what
would the Wizards have to give up? That'd be an interesting one. Because it does get him back to his buddy with Wall. I mean, and I'll say from the get-go, I don't think Cousins is some sort of massive locker room cancer. A lot of people make him out to be that way. I think he's perfectly fine. I think he's like any other star to a degree, where there's some ego there, but he's not going to come in and just completely derail a team. But I think getting him with Wall, that makes him. I mean, Wall and him are for literally lack of a better word, brothers. Mm-hmm. Getting him back with Wall, I think, would completely change. You would see a completely different DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I mean, I think that a big key if you're going to trade for Cousins is, I don't think Cousins is a necessarily bad person. I think that he is just very emotional, and you have to find a leader who can kind of get that guy under wraps.
And also, I mean? Brooks is. I mean, he's had Westbrook and he's had Durant, so it's he's seen something like this to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to find the right fit then. Is Otto Porter?
Right. I just don't know what Washington
would get it done, because Porter's really good, but I don't know if he's enough to get it done for me.
And they don't have this year's first rounder, right?
They do have this year's first rounder. They have all of their future picks. It's just, is Porter and picks enough? And I am maybe Porter and Oubre and picks. Is that enough? Maybe it is. Maybe that's actually not a bad deal now that I'm looking at it. Maybe Otto Porter, Kelly Oubre, and 2 first rounders. That's, and you throw in salary filler like Andrew Nicholson and Jason Smith, but that's not a disaster.
And I think people will kind of scoff when you hear Otto Porter, but when you look at it, like you said, when you look at his numbers, he's been really good.
Yeah, he's turned into a killer 3-point shooter. He has defensive versatility. He's actually been probably a top 25 player in the Eastern Conference this year. So
right. And he's still relatively young, as is Oubre.
Yeah, I think something like this makes a decent amount of sense. Yeah, I would say the Wizards are probably the best fit to answer this question.
Yeah, I think it does. And then it obviously makes the Wizards better, and you're not absolutely they kind of don't have a great depth right now, but you're not. Yeah, you're only giving up 2 current players, so you're not losing a ton of depth by making this trade.
Yeah, so the question is, at that stage, would you rather have the Sun? If you're the Kings, would you rather trade him to the Suns and potentially get a top 5 pick this year as your centerpiece, or would you rather have Otto Porter as your centerpiece? Because that would realistically be the best piece in the deal. Because those picks that you're trading for, you trade for 2 future picks or 3 future picks or whatever, those picks are going to be really bad picks. They're just going to be in the bottom 7 or bottom 6 in the NBA.
Yeah, you're getting 25, 26.
So you have to decide on what you want the centerpiece to be first. That's why a Lakers deal makes a decent amount of sense. The Lakers are far enough down the ladder to where, you could reasonably say, like I said, Russell Randle and, maybe this pick protected, the top 3 part of the unprotected pick here the semi-protected pick here that could go to the 76ers, and then, their 2018 first rounder. No, they can't do that because they actually have traded out their 2019 first
rounder. So you can't
rounder.
trade your 3 in a row, right?
Yeah, so that actually might not work for the Kings unless you moved in another piece. So yeah, no, I think the Wizards makes a lot of sense, to be honest.
And be a great fit for both sides.
Yeah, I think that would be a decent move. Let's move on out of the NBA for a second here. Well, do you want to I'll actually ask you this. Do you want to talk All-Star Weekend, or do you want to talk college basketball next? What order do you want to go in here?
Let's stick with the NBA. We'll go NBA then into college.
Okay.
Because breaking news, John Calipari's on his way down to New Orleans, meaning I think this deal gets done. He's down there to facilitate.
Yeah.
He is now DeMarcus Cousins' agent.
Good God. Yeah.
He's getting him to Washington. He's getting him to John Wall or to Anthony Davis.
None of this is happening. So from Harris,
there's zero chance. There's zero chance he gets straight.
From Harris Merconia, he asked, "Was this the weakest slam dunk contest we've seen in the last decade?" I think so. So, did you watch the slam dunk contest last night, Reags?
Yes, I did.
What level of disappointed were you?
It was like I was like a 5 out of 10 both ways, because what made the slam dunk contest great last year was just nobody missed. Like, everyone hit the first time, so the anticipation of the dunk building and then hitting it, the crowd went wild. Like, everyone was into it. That's what made it great. This year, like, the dunks were creative, but there's just so many misses.
Yeah, so I will say that the 2014 dunk contest, the one where they did like the weird ass like freestyle thing, and then they had like one-on-one battle round or something like that. Like, I think that was probably the worst dunk contest.
Yeah,
there's
really been worse than this one.
Yeah, that was a really bad dunk contest, which is hilarious because, like, looking back at the 2014 dunk contest, that probably had like the biggest names of any
that's
dunk
one
contest.
That Wall won, right?
Yeah, like you had John Wall, who's an all-star. Paul George is an all-star. Like, Harrison Barnes and Damian Lillard were in that dunk contest. Like, that was actually a pretty good one.
I mean, you have 3 all-stars and the missing piece of the Warriors.
Right. Then looking back behind that, the Jeremy Evans one was a little bit disappointing, I thought. That was okay, though, because he had a decent little finish. The Terrence Ross one was okay. The Blake Griffin one was... Blake Griffin, you can complain about the fact that he won, because it was kind of ridiculous that he won. But that still had some pretty good dunks from JaVale. That had some decent ones from DeMar DeRozan.
Like the old Nate Robinson, Dwight Howard one where Nate Robinson was taking 19 dunks around.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
I was not a huge fan of the Nate Robinson ones. I was not necessarily the biggest fan of the Gerald Green ones. There was one with Andre Iguodala that Nate Robinson won that was pretty sweet, though.
Yes, because Iguodala got screwed that one, and because his dunks are really good.
Yeah. The one that everyone points to is the 2004 one that Fred Jones won because of missed dunks late. Jason Richardson missed a couple, I think, or maybe missed the last one. So Fred Jones won with the weakest dunk to finish in a long time. So he basically won by default.
Here's the other thing I'll say about dunk contests. Everyone, I feel goes, well, it's so boring. Like, you don't see anything new. And it's well, that's the point. How many dunk contests have there been? There are only so many dunks you can do. So it's
well, that's what made last year cool, though. Right.
And this year, if Gordon would have hit the drone dunk, people would have lost their mind. If he hit that the first time, people would have been talking about that forever.
Yeah.
But he missed. That's literally just what happened. He just happened to miss.
Yeah. And Glenn Robinson, the problem was there was just no creativity. Derek Jones had that sweet dunk, the second dunk in the first round. That was the best dunk of the night. I think Derek Jones' dunk in the last round of the dunk contest, his final dunk was probably better than anything Glenn Robinson had all night, too.
Robinson's first was pretty good.
It was cool because he nailed it the first time.
Yep.
That's a big piece of this. His second dunk in the finals was fine because it was just very similar to the first dunk.
Yeah.
I mean, LaVine and Gordon last year, though, it was always going to be difficult to live up to that. Zach LaVine, for my money, is the second best dunker ever in the dunk contest behind Vince Carter.
That's the other thing. This one missed names. DeAndre Jordan, he's a name, but no one wants to see a big guy dunk. That's just not cool. Aaron Gordon had a bunch of hype and didn't do it. And then you had so it came down to Derek Jones and Glenn Robinson. It's people are just kind of eh. When you had at least last year, you had LaVine versus Gordon, 2 names. People were invested in LaVine.
Yeah.
So it's they really needed Gordon to be in the finals.
Yeah, I think that was a key for sure. Real quick, who are your top 3 dunkers ever in the dunk contest?
It's got to be Vince Carter.
Yeah.
Jason Richardson. Those 2 are locks.
Yep.
Man, the third one
probably LaVine, right?
Yeah, LaVine. Yeah, maybe Iguodala.
Iguodala
He's very underrated when it came to it.
He was really good in the one dunk contest.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the legend exceeds what he was, though, in that one.
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember, back in the day, who else was there?
Desmond Mason was really good.
Desmond Mason was good. I think it is LaVine. I think those are the three.
Yeah.
I think it has to be LaVine, Iguodala. Because I turned 30 this year, so you're talking roughly 90. You're not counting Jordan stuff, so you're talking 97-ish to present day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's those three.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably right. I would go Carter 1, LaVine 2, and then Richardson 3. I don't think people understand though that Richardson is outrageously good.
Oh yeah, go back
people forget that.
Go back
Hashtag
and watch.
People forget that.
Yeah, YouTube Jason Richardson dunk contest, and you will get into a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And it's phenomenal. You want to be in this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Let's move on to thoughts on the Mark Gottfried firing from Brian Malroe, the color beard. Oh boy. Yeah, go ahead on this one, Reags. I have thoughts for sure.
Tell me if you agree with this, because this is something I've been on record saying, in blogs and in tweets.
You and I talked about this last week on the show.
Yeah. So here's my thought on the Mark Gottfried thing. Mark Gottfried's tenure at NC State was not a failure. This year was a failure. But this year had the most hype. But the problem was the failure came with the most hype.
Yeah, the problem came with expectations. You need to consistently exceed expectations to keep yourself on off the hot seat.
Right.
And
I don't think Gottfried failed at NC State in any sense except for this year.
Right. And this was a big year, I think, to fail. It was a young team, but it was a team with a lot of talent that he's clearly lost.
And there was also some weird things Yurtseven missed 9 games. You didn't know exactly what to expect with Smith when he was coming off of an ACL. That's not really an excuse, but it's still in the back of people's minds. Okay, what's he going to be like when he gets out here in college basketball?
I think that maybe there might be a bit too high of an expectation on him too, because on some level he is going to be someone that is still concerned about getting injured. It's just the nature of humanity. You're going to be worried about going up and dunking and going up and landing.
Or even, I was talking to a guy who worked with him, who was with him when he got injured, worked with him before he got injured, and worked with him after he got injured. And I'm pulling up his exact quote to me now. But it was, he was talking about that. And what he said was, let me go here real quick. What he said was, where is it here? He said, where the hell is it here? My phone's going slow. So he was saying that, he's the most athletic out of this group, but his ability to switch gears and go from 0 to 60 back down to 0 is what he thrived on, what everyone thought was. But the question was, was that his knee? Is he still going to be able to do that? There was a concern in the back of Smith's mind that I was being told of, can I still be as laterally quick and 0 to 60 as much as I could? Mm-hmm. And that's, he's an 18, 19-year-old kid. That's expected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, and especially when you're on the precipice of getting millions of dollars. That's a difficult situation. And yeah, look, no one's saying Mark Gottfried did a good job here. No one's making excuses for Mark Gottfried here. He is doing probably the worst coaching job in college basketball this season. But
no, that's an interesting debate.
Yeah, he's up there though for sure. If he's not the guy,
he at least beat Duke.
Yeah, he is way, way up there though, even with that Duke win. Oh yeah. Here is what I will say about this NC State job. So, NC State fans have gotten angry at national media. Gary Parrish wrote a thing immediately, my former colleague at CBS, and Jeff Goodman wrote a thing, who's been on this show before, and, I consider myself friends of theirs. They're really good at their jobs, they're really good people, and they're as glued in as anybody within this industry. I can guarantee you that. And even me to an extent. Like I said, like I think this job is probably not as valuable as what people make it out to be. So the reason that I say that is not to say that NC State fans shouldn't strive for excellence. Like NC State fans should want the absolute best coach they can get.
Yep.
The thing is that whenever you fire a guy after making the NCAA tournament 4 times in 5 years, and then realistically probably 4 times in 6, given the way this was going down, you have to understand that around the coaching industry, your job is going to be questioned in terms of what if this guy got fired for making the NCAA tournament 4 times in 6 years and making 2 Sweet 16s. Like, what is the expectation here? What do I have to do? You know what I mean? Like, it's just natural. Coaches want a few things. They want to be paid. They want job security, and they want to be able to move up or, continue to stay secure within their job. Does NC State offer all 3 of those things, I think is the question. So, number 1, payment. They absolutely do. Number 2,
yep.
Yes. Number 2, job security. I would argue they absolutely do not. Really.
This is absolutely do not.
Yes, like it's incontrovertible to me because not only do you have a high expectations game, but you just proved that you're going to fire someone who just made the NCAA tournament, made multiple Sweet 16s, and you also have an upcoming athletic director situation where Debbie Yao is likely going to be leaving within the next 2 years. So, what happens if the next AD doesn't like you? It's just a very insecure and problematic situation to be entering if you're a head coach in that regard. And then finally, can you move up or can you stay in a similar place and stay at the same job and be secure? NC State makes that really tough, I think, because if you just look at the history of success over the last 25 years, it's just not there. Just about every single guy who has been there. I mean, Herb Sendek was able to move laterally to Arizona State after he was gone. But like Sidney Lowe, problematic. Mark Gottfried, definitely not going to be getting a job.
No, he'll be an analyst next year.
He will be, and he'll be good at it like he was before.
This whole thing where he was when he got hired.
Right. So like you look at the results over these last few coaching searches. Part of it is that I think they've probably gone name over substance a little bit more. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, like, I understood the Sidney Lowe hire. Like, that one made sense to me. Like, it's just, hey, we're bringing him home. Like,
former NBA coach.
Yeah, like, that was one that one made sense to me. Like,
I wasn't a big fan of it, I will say that. But
it at least made sense. Like, hey, it is Sidney Lowe. Like, it at least made sense. I can at least understand that.
Sure.
I did not understand the Gottfried hire. Like, that was one where it's a name over... Like you that's when you should have taken a mid-major, like one of the younger coaches and let him build a program.
Right. So, and that's what I think is the key here. You need to go out. You need to not hire a big name, even though I think that Tom Crean would be really successful there. Like you need to go out and build someone that can build a program because you're not going to beat Duke and North Carolina based on recruiting and based on like everything that Duke and North Carolina do. You need someone who can grow with the program. You need someone who is willing to put in hours upon hours recruiting more than anything because it's going to be really difficult for you. It's difficult for anyone in this job to really settle down and settle in and recruit and really get the high level kids. Like NC State over the last couple of years figured out a way under Mark Gottfried. And, Sidney Lowe, he brought in kids like JJ Hickson. Like you're going to get them occasionally. Did
Lowe bring in Leslie too?
Was that Gottfried or was it Lowe? I can't remember.
I can't remember. It was right at that
CJ
time.
Leslie was probably 2011 or 12 recruit, and I can't remember which one it would be.
No, was he? Oh, yeah, he was younger than Wall, wasn't he?
Yes, I believe that is accurate because he left in the 2013 draft.
So he was there. So I think he was brought in by Lowe, and Gottfried had him for a year.
Yeah, so he got there in when did he get there? He got there in 2011. So he was a 2011 recruit. So I would guess Sidney Lowe got him there. I'm not going to remember though. Like it's
so you can get people. The other thing is if you can't get those people, which I agree with what you said, you need someone who can put in all those hours recruiting, or you need someone like Hoiberg who can just dominate the transfer market.
Right. Or you need someone who can just outcoach. Like, just flat out outcoach Roy Williams and Coach K, which good luck. But like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Roy Williams is like this X's and O's savant. He's
Yeah,
certainly good.
I'm not
Don't get me
worried
wrong,
about
but like
coaching Roy Williams.
right, like he's a really good basketball coach, but you can probably find a guy to maybe outcoach him. But the thing is that to find that guy, he needs to feel secure in the job, and he needs to feel that there is upward mobility, either in terms of getting a contract extension from you or getting another job in the future if it was to open up. And given the past history of NC State, I think that's a very difficult thing. And just being realistic here, that is the problem with this job right now. There are clearly outsized administrative expectations for what the perception of the job is. I don't think that fans, like I said, are incorrect in wanting someone to, like, a big name who will come in and, like, potentially dominate the scene. Like, fans should absolutely want that, and they should absolutely be looking at the best names possible. But I think that there should also be a bit of just, this could go poorly, like it has the last couple times. Like, this could end up being with you hiring either a retreat big name or a Will Wade or a
Kevin Keats.
I think
that's who I think they should hire.
Yes, like Will Wade or Kevin Keats, I think would both be the two names on the top of my list. If you want to go the young person route and don't get Archie Miller, because I'm not real. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think that, or when we talked about this last week, I don't think Archie's going to take this job. So that's where I'm at on this. I mean, I understand the frustration of NC State fans with just getting your program shit on constantly by the national media, but I think that there does have to be just like a slight understanding that the outside perception within the coaching industry is that this job is very difficult. And you can absolutely find someone to succeed in it, but it's a risky job for them, and that makes them more hesitant to take it. There are other ways you could, make that work for them, but it makes them hesitant, I think, and that makes it tougher to find a better candidate.
Because here's what's going to happen is when this coaching search happens, when they finally hire somebody, it's going to be like you said, their fifth or sixth option at best. Maybe. I mean, and it's going to be, and you're going to hear though all these reports like Archie. They called Archie Miller. He said no. They called whoever else. They said no. You called this person. They said no. And so like you just keep hearing that like, oh, NC State got denied by how many people again? Mm-hmm. So it's weird like that. And for like a Will Wade, I don't know if I would leave for NC State. Like you look at obviously Shaka's a little bit different, but he was able to wait out and get Texas, which I think is one of the 10 best coaching jobs in the country.
I'd go higher than that. Yeah, I think it's probably top 5, to be honest, just because you have full security, you have all of the money in the world, you have a fan base that cares about athletics, even if they don't necessarily care about basketball as much as football. Like, that's a top 5 job in the country, I think, among coaches because of the security involved.
I think when they hired him, when that job became available, I did a bracket of the best coaching jobs, and I think that was a 1 seed.
It should be. It's a very good job. Yeah. Within the coach, I mean, having talked to coaches before about this, it is considered an extremely high level job.
But like, wouldn't Will Wade look at like what Archie's doing, where hey, I can hang out in the A10 and have my pick. Like if I'm successful in the A10, where if I win the league, every 3 years, or whether you win the league or the conference tournament, if you make the tournament, 2 out of every 3 years, and you win it 1 out of every 3 years, you're gonna have your pick of where you want to go. Like VCU is not gonna fire Will Wade,
no,
unless he completely shits the bed.
No, and just looking at what they have coming back next year, I mean, you have Jonathan Williams, Justin Tillman, the Dowdy kid. You have De'Riante Jenkins, who's obviously a very high-level recruit. You have Malik Crowfield, who's a freshman. I believe they have a pretty solid recruiting class coming in. Like, this is going to be a good job going forward because of the work that you have done thus far to build it to the level and continue within the level that Shaka Smart has built for it. So I think that VCU is a nice job, but again, a lot of this does come down to money. Like, NC State's going to be able to blow VCU's offer out of the water. That's just kind of the realistic, reality, which is a terrible English, but like that's the reality of the situation here. Like, VCU has, looking at their recruiting class, they have a top 100 kid in LaVar Betts. They have a high-level athletic kid that I like that I've seen a few times in Mayan Kier, who's committed. They have Sean Mobley, a big body, like, power forward, 6'9", and then another big-bodied like Marcus Santos Silva that's considered like a 3-star kid. That's a much better recruiting class than NC State has right now. You can maybe bring a couple of those kids in and they wouldn't look out of place in the ACC, but these kids are going to wreck shop in the A-10, and if you're waiting for a better job than NC State, it'll probably come along.
Yeah, I would, if I'm going to wait, I'm not going to NC State. So that's why I think Keats is the logical hire. And I think it'd be a great hire. Like, I really like Kevin.
I think Keats would be very successfate there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I agree. Like, that'd be a great hire. Like, I like Kevin Keats is a really good coach. He hires him and lets him have some time and build that program. NC State will be a really good program.
I agree. Keats would be a really good hire. Let's move on, though. We've talked enough about NC State at this point. Where would you rank D'Angelo Russell with the top 4 point guards this year that are going to be like college one-and-doners? From Nick Graham, NL Graham 1.
Yeah, that's tough because we've seen what D'Angelo Russell can do in the NBA. So you're asking me, like, okay, if I'm taking...
Is all of that positive, though, by the way?
I think so. Like, I think D'Angelo Russell's a nice player. Like, he's if he's your point guard, like, I think you're fine, right?
I think fine is a way to put it.
But are you how much better? Like, we don't know how much better any of those other 4 guys are going to be.
Right, we don't.
What's to say Dennis Smith isn't D'Angelo Russell?
Oh, I think that there's at least a 50% chance that Dennis Smith is not going to be as good as D'Angelo Russell is in pros. Like,
so where would Ohio State D'Angelo Russell be coming out in this draft?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think he would probably go ahead of De'Aaron Fox.
I would say probably. I think he might. I think he might go ahead of Dennis Smith.
I also think he might go ahead of Dennis Smith because the only reason I say that is because of the knees with Dennis Smith.
Exactly.
I think that there might be some knee concerns. Russell doesn't really have any of that coming out of Ohio State. He didn't have any of that.
Right, and he was ridiculous when he was at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the other thing to remember is we're talking, what D'Angelo Russell was that one year he was at Ohio State where, I mean, there was good reason why he was picked where he was. Like, That's who he was coming out. I would think he'd probably be number 3 out of that.
I think consensus would be number 3.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would have him number 4 for what it's worth. I would have Dennis Smith out of him.
Yeah. I mean, but to me, they're the same tier. Like if it's on the big board, I'm putting them next to each other and going, all right, whatever one's available, we take.
Right. Like, one thing that I will say that I think that I'm probably going to end up looking wrong on, just given what we've seen, is like I had Emmanuel Mudiay ahead of D'Angelo Russell coming into the draft. I was a big Emmanuel Mudiay fan, and I think he's going to be a good starting level point guard in the NBA. I still strongly believe that. It's just, we'll see. I mean, just given what we've seen of the two so far, D'Angelo Russell has shown a lot more. But I don't think we've seen enough from Russell where I'm like, this guy's going to be a surefire all-star either.
No, I would agree with that, but it's weird because I hate trying to say, well, do you think he's going to be better than this guy? And it's like, well, we already know what he is in the NBA. Like, or we've at least seen him in the NBA. We're just guessing what we think these 4 point guards are going to be in the NBA. And I mean, I think they're all going to be good. Like, I think they're all, I'm not. And this is the other thing when it comes to like drafting and comparing expectations. Not everybody is going to be an all-star. Like, it's okay to be Kenneth Faried.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay to be Markieff Morris. Like, but if you get someone like that, it's a win.
You're probably pretty pissed if you get that guy at number 2, but it's still a useful piece of your rotation for sure.
Right. Like, especially like, again, you'd much rather have the Kenneth Faried than the, Greg Oden, or, that's a bad comparison, but, the Kenneth Faried than the Patrick O'Brien or Johnny O'Brien. So it's just one of those, like, yeah. So it's one of those where it's like, hey, if you get if these point guards all end up as starters or in the rotation, it's a win.
Yeah, and I think they are all going to be starting point guards in the NBA. Like, I don't really have any doubts about that. But if you're making me say D'Angelo Russell, I would say 4. But that comes from someone who was not like crazy high on Russell pre-draft.
Yeah,
I was more tempered.
And I'd have him 3.
Yeah. All right. The next question, have you guys gotten a chance to know the Ball family at all? The dad seems a little out there. Curious on your thoughts. This comes from Nolan Wolfus at Los Contrarian. I'll take this first.
Yeah.
I've gotten a chance to know Lonzo a little bit out here. Like, I've sat down and talked to him one-on-one for 15 minutes and I've been in scrums with him and press conferences and just like that stuff. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you like I know him well. What I will say is that Lonzo is the antithesis of his father. He is quiet, humble, very team-oriented. Like, seriously, if you told him he scored 0 points, 0 assists, 6 turnovers in a game, yeah, he'd probably be pretty angry that he played poorly. But like, he would also be happiest as long as the team won. Like he's not going to get caught up in the game of his own statistics and his own hype, which is fantastic because LaVar is out here wilding. He is saying that Lonzo is better than Steph Curry already, that he's
I agree.
shitting on his teammates. Like,
yeah, he really is.
Like, you can't be doing that stuff, LaVar. I don't know LaVar at all. I will say that. I've gotten, just talking to people around the UCLA program, talking to people that have dealt with LaVar before. Very nice guy, just very outspoken.
He's being a parent. Like,
this
he's
goes
taking it to the extreme.
Parent, but yeah.
Right, he's taking it to the extreme, but he's being a parent. Like, he's just be like, yeah, my kid's better than that. Which, I'll tell you what, my future imaginary son, he's better than LeBron right now. What do I care? Like, you know what? My kid's gonna be a better coach than Krzyzewski. He's gonna have more college wins. I'm calling it now. Mark it down.
Yeah, here's what I will say. There are some people out there who thinks that like this hurts Lonzo. I don't really think it hurts Lonzo at all.
It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, like Lonzo is level-headed enough to where it's just not going to be a big deal to him. Maybe it like hurts the teammates. Maybe like they get pissed having to deal with this shit. But like, right. I don't think that Lonzo, in terms of like creating outsized expectations, he's not someone that's going to fall victim to that. I don't think. What you have to understand is that I think LaVar is out here trying to, build his brand, the Big Baller brand. Every time that you see him do these interviews and everything and have him on camera, he's wearing Big Baller brand stuff. I think he's trying to build that up a little bit. And I think he's, just trying to build the brand of his son. I'm not going to sue the guy. Yeah, sons. I'm not going to like kill the guy for trying to build the brand of his sons. It's outrageous and it's stupid and it's ridiculous.
It's all planned. Like it's do I think he honestly believes it? No, to a degree. I think to a degree he does, but he's being a promoter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Let's move to this one. When you're analyzing a team, this comes from Ethan Guetig at Ethan Guetig, Guetig. When you're analyzing a team, what metric, if any, do you trust above the rest?
That's weird because I don't know if there is one what is he defining as metric? Like,
yeah, like if we're talking like, predictive, model here or whatever, it's probably KenPom for me.
Yeah,
but like if we're getting 100%. If we're getting more granular than that, like is there like a
the AP poll? Why? I trust the AP poll. I trust the AP poll. Right?
Why do you trust the AP poll?
Because smart people fill it out, almost as smart as the people that fill out the USA Today coaches poll.
Oh boy!
And I'm being completely sarcastic when I say that.
Yes, we've
yes. It is. I don't know. I mean,
my boy GP over at CBS is, been demolishing AP voters for years. Thank God, because
but it's probably. Predictive. It's KenPom for me as well.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at if you're telling me what do I look at in a team, if I'm just looking at their resume or whatever as a team, quality road wins.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, quality road wins, and to a degree, I'll look at score. How much did you win by against top 75 teams or something like that? To me, it's a little different. Are you Maryland, where you're winning games, but you're winning by 1-2, or are you North Carolina and winning games by 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the best, but it's something to kind of take a look at.
Yeah. If you're asking me, like, you know, is there a specific statistic I look at? So I would point to two. I look at, 3-point attempt, and this is defensively. I look at how many 3-pointers you're allowing teams to take.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because if you look at any sort of 3-point defense metric or any sort of study that's been done on 3-point defense, it says that your goal needs to be to diminish the attempt number that teams get up, because it's just too difficult to really affect shooters. The shooters
That's
are too
why,
good now that, like, they're going to make a certain number. It's just the reality. So if
that's
you can,
why Duke's so good at it. Like,
right.
Duke always has great 3-point defense. It's ridiculous.
Right. It's something Coach K has been preaching for years. And, like, you look
Yep.
at their number this year, they're only allowing 28.8% of opponent field goal attempts to be 3-pointers. That's 11th in the country. Coach K
Yep.
has been tremendous at that. And if you look at another thing that I look at is defensive rebounding rate. If you can
That's another good one.
limit 3-point attempts and limit defensive rebound or limit offensive rebounds from the opposing team, I think you're going to be a very, very good basketball team. That's just the way it is in the modern basketball ecosystem. Same goes for offense. Like, if you're getting up 3-pointers, I have a pretty good faith that you're going to do it. If you shoot a lot of threes and are efficient inside, I think.
Yeah.
Not necessarily even like you have to get a lot of looks inside and you have to, like, create the most efficient plays. But as long as you're efficient finishing inside while taking a lot of threes, I think you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I would say the other thing to look at, too, that I like looking at is the difference in your average length of possession offensively and defensively.
That's
like,
interesting.
If a team loves to play fast, like UNC is a good example. Offensively, they want to get up and down. But defensively, they will sit there and guard you. Like, they have one of the quickest offensive tempos in the country. Defensively, they're like middle of the pack, I think, if I remember correctly when I looked at it this week. In terms of,
you know who the best example of that
length.
this year is? It's Gonzaga. So
Yeah,
Gonzaga's 32nd in the country. Their average offensive possession length is 15.6 seconds, and they're 326th in the country, so like top 25 in the country in average defensive possession length at 18.2. So that basically means that they're getting super efficient looks all the time, especially given the fact that they don't, like, get out in transition a crazy amount of time, and they're really sitting down and guarding you. Like, that's another reason I love this Gonzaga team. They are.
Yeah.
Gonzaga performs excellently in every single metric that we're looking at here, essentially.
Yep. But that's one thing I like to look, because that just means you're controlling the tempo on both sides of the floor.
Right. Yeah, I like that one. All right. From Talking Dunks, do you keep tomato ketchup in the fridge or cupboard?
I hate ketchup. I once threw a McDonald's cheeseburger over the counter because of ketchup.
Nice. Were you drunk?
Yeah, in Washington, Pennsylvania.
Oh, bad place.
I was dead sober. I was in the middle of driving home with my ex-girlfriend, who is just that. I mean, that enough should be for me to throw cheeseburgers.
Sure.
And it was late. It was a long drive. It was frustrating. So we stopped, and I had simply ordered, cheeseburger for her without pickles, cheeseburger with me without ketchup. And of course, I couldn't get it right 3 times in a row. So I finally walked in and was like, "What is this?" And I just chucked it across the counter. I said, "That's ketchup on your display now." and then I apologized. Was like, "Listen, it's been a long day. I just don't like ketchup."
Yeah. Answer the question.
Don't put ketchup but it goes in the fridge, because that's where my fiance has it. It's in the fridge.
See,
that's where I had it grow.
I used to think that it was in the fridge, but my girlfriend Laura, we moved in together like 9 months ago now, and she feels that it doesn't have to go in the fridge, that it's in the cupboard.
That's wrong.
I always keep it in the fridge because I feel it's safer. I don't know enough about the chemical balance of ketchup. I guess we can go there if you want to say that. So
it definitely goes. It goes in the fridge.
Yeah, I am team fridge. For ketchup
I would say
well.
all condiments go in the fridge.
Yes, I think that's true.
Mustard, mayo, right. Everything. Yeah, it all goes on. That's what the little shelf on the side of the fridge is for.
Yeah. How did this decline happen so suddenly in the Big Ten? From Patrick Leary.
Well, they don't have a lot of NBA players.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing. Like they just forgot to bring the talent this year.
Right, like they just don't have the talent. And then injuries. I mean,
injuries were a killer too.
Like I would have liked to see Michigan State with Carter and Schilling all year.
Mm-hmm.
See what would that look like.
So here's actually a funny thing that I was looking at earlier. Like, if you take away Indiana's 2 wins, because it's clearly just a different Indiana team that's probably not going to make the NCAA tournament.
Carolina,
right? Like, the Big Ten's wins are atrocious out of conference.
Yeah, it's like Maryland beating Oklahoma State, and then
the best wins out of
Purdue
conference,
beating Notre Dame.
Yeah, the best wins out of conference for the Big Ten right now are Purdue beating Notre Dame, Michigan State beating Wichita, or Michigan beating SMU. Those are the best wins non-conference like the leagues have. And those are nice wins. But like you look at the Pac-12, I mean, UCLA went out and beat Kentucky. And I'm trying to think, like even like Colorado beat Xavier in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
In the SEC, Kentucky went out and beat North Carolina. Florida beat Miami, who I think is better than a lot of those teams. Like the Big East obviously has a bunch of wins. The ACC and Big 12 have Kansas and Baylor and West Virginia cleaning up. Like your best wins can't be Notre Dame, Wichita, and SMU outside of the league. It's just not going to be good enough.
Yeah, they don't have great wins. They don't have great talent. I mean, the best players, the best talent is Miles Bridges, obviously. Best player right now is Swanigan, and he's a second-round pick, maybe a late first-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, look, I like Swanigan. I think he's a potential National Player of the Year candidate. I'd have him like third right now, probably. He's just not getting it for me, I guess.
Yeah,
like he's a good player, really good player. Like is he going to lead Purdue to a Final Four though?
No. Will he get them out of the first round of the first weekend? Probably not.
I think he has a very good shot to do that. But
I mean, it all depends on matchups, obviously. But I can guarantee I won't have them in the Sweet 16 like I do every year. But I'm always like, oh, Purdue's in the tournament. Okay, what mid-major are they going to lose to in the 6-11 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, they ran into a buzzsaw last year in Little Rock. That was a fun NCAA tournament game,
and they choked the game away against Cincinnati. 3 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah, and I mean, you could argue they choked the game away last year too.
Yep. So it's I mean, they're just one of those teams where I'm just like, I always pick against Purdue in the tournament.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say too. Like Maryland's going to be good for a few years here. They should. Really good.
They should.
Really good recruiting class this year. In Kevin Herter, Cowan, Jackson, those guys. That's all pretty good. Like Michigan's going to be losing the Irvin Walton class, which is probably good for them. So they're probably going to be better here going forward. Does Minnesota have any seniors? I don't know that.
I don't think so.
I don't know that they do, to be honest.
Northwestern returns everybody next year.
Yep. Wisconsin. They get back pretty much everyone outside of Hayes and Koenig, I believe. Maybe lose Vito Brown too, and
they lose Vito Brown and Showalter.
But they recruited reasonably well. Like
I really like Trice.
Yeah, I think Khalil Iverson's pretty solid. Like
you have a nice
Nebraska's on the come up.
I'll say Wisconsin. They have a nice core next year with Trice, Pritzel, Happ, and Iverson. That's a solid 4 right there.
Yeah, Ohio State basically returns everyone. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, well, who knows with them?
Indiana, we'll see what happens. Does Thomas Bryant leave?
Happens with OG?
Does Anunoby leave? If those guys don't leave, I mean, look out. Everyone returns, and they beat Kansas and North Carolina when they were healthy. That's going to be a good team. So I think it's cyclical, to be honest, more than anything.
Yeah,
you look at who the Big Ten had last year, Denzel Valentine was a lottery pick, and Yogi Ferrell's doing things in the NBA right now. And just look around the leagues, there was a lot of talent in the Big Ten last year. There was a lot of talent in the Big Ten the year before. Kaminsky, Russell, Decker, all first-round picks. It's cyclical. It's just a down year.
Yep.
They found a rough patch, so it's going to be fine going forward, though.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying in that vein, do you think Ethan Happ has a chance of ever making an NBA roster? From Nick Oliphant.
Yeah, actually, I think he does. I mean, he does everything well except shoot the ball. And it's not because of form. His form is fine.
Yeah.
He just doesn't shoot it. That's something you can fix. That's you can fix you can fix someone. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a good shooter, but you can get him to be an average shooter. that's something you can work with. Like, you can't work what he has defensively. You can't teach.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how his game. I'm interested to see how his game translates defensively at the next level.
Yeah, because I'm not saying he's going to be a lottery pick, but he's going to be. I mean, would it shock me if he ends up being a guy that spends a year in the D League, ends up in it up and down from D League to some sort of team, 10-day contracts here and there. I'd bet money that he plays in the NBA at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. He needs the jump shot badly.
He does. But it's
like I don't know what he's going to do offensively without the jump shot.
No, but I mean, I still think he eventually finds his way on there. I don't know. It's sort of like how I feel with. It's like sort of how I feel with like Jalen Brunson. Like, everyone's like, well, is Jalen Brunson going to play? Like, I would bet Jalen Brunson plays in the NBA at some point too. I don't know why. Like,
he's steady offensively. Like, you can see him providing a real role. I think it's harder for big guys in today's NBA ecosystem.
Absolutely, but it's just one of those two where it's just like there's a lot to say why he wouldn't, but I don't know why. I just think there's something about Hap's game. I think it's just because his worst part of his game is shooting, which is something that you can fix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's just the one thing.
I would not close
if he gets a shot, he's good.
I would not close the door on it, but he needs to do some. Very real skill development, I think.
Yeah, like, I don't think he'll get drafted. Like, he's going to be one of those like summer league all-star type guys.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. So you asked earlier, why do I like Pam Beesly?
The worst character in TV history.
Why do you hate Pam Beesly?
How much time you got? We got another hour?
We got some. We do not have another hour, but we have some time to discuss.
She completely brings down Jim. I mean, she cheated on Roy. We like cheaters all of a sudden. Let's see here. I mean, I just watched the episode where, the Christmas episode where Jim gets her this real nice fancy bracelet and all this stuff, and she just gets a stupid comic book for him. So she's clearly selfish. Speaking of selfish, she gets to live her dream of going to art school, but God forbid Jim wants to go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia to Scranton is not far.
No, it's not far.
You're telling me to not live his dream of what is it? What is it? Athletes first or whatever?
Something like that, yeah.
Freaks out about that, but yet she can go to New York and not even graduate art school, fail art school, and then just come home and everything's okay. She's just the worst.
Yeah, I think that the part of it with the Jim relationship is, like, Jim knew that he was making sacrifices.
Jim should have stayed with Rashida Jones.
Why do you think he should have stayed with Rashida Jones? Rashida
Jones is A, hotter, and B, more fun.
Rashida Jones, I will not disparage Rashida Jones. That is for sure. I don't think Pam is, like, bad. I mean, Pam is fun. She is...
I also just hate when the show just becomes Jim and Pam.
It needed to stay away from that, and it got a little too Jim Pam heavy.
And it went too early in the show. I feel like they almost should have drug out the will they get together, will they not, a little bit longer.
Yeah,
it was pretty early where it was just in.
Well, yeah, I think it's the end of season 3, right? Which is where there's that awesome scene at the end where, like, she says, like, sorry, I forgot the question. Like, that's like one of the best scenes ever in TV.
I just hate her.
Yeah.
She just sucks.
Yeah, I can't hate her because of, I think, that scene. That is the perfect scene to me, like, in The Office. Except for,
she makes Jim
anything
dress
that
up
Creed
like
says.
Popeye. Creed's the best. Creed is by far the best character in the show.
Yes. No, you will not get any arguments from me. Creed is by far the best character in that show, and it's not even close.
I 100% agree with probably... I don't know who's second in that. Yeah, there's some great options.
Who is second? Who is the second best character in The Office? That is...
Stanley has some great lines.
Man. Oh, wow.
Because Creed's clear number... It might be Kevin. Kevin might be number 2.
Kevin gets too dumb, though. Like, Kevin in the last 5 seasons is really bad.
I don't know. I lost it today when I was watching an episode where he got stuck in the corn maze. Or the hay maze.
Yeah, that one's funny. Toby's hilarious. Like, Toby's pathetic, but, like, he's pretty hilarious. I mean, Dwight gets really dumb like, I guess at the end, like near the last few seasons too.
Andy might be number 2. Or Daryl. Daryl's actually.
Oh, yeah, Daryl. Daryl's probably number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, Daryl. And honestly, like, you know, Michael. Like, Michael is definitely a top 3 character in The Office. Like, he just has to be.
Jim, when he's not around Pam, is a top 3 character, too.
Yeah, Jim's funny. Jim does a lot
like when it's Jim and Dwight or Jim and Andy, Jim and Michael, like, those are great. When it's like, he's great in those roles.
Yeah, like, first 3 seasons of Jim is really funny, where he's just like constantly pranking.
Yep.
No, that's a tough one. Have you seen The Good Place yet? I watched, just thinking of Michael Schur TV shows, because
I refuse to watch that show.
Why?
Because it looked like it was going to get canceled after 1 episode.
It's not. It's probably going to get picked up for a second season. I think it might have officially already been picked up for a second season.
Yeah, no, I have not watched that. I think I've hit my limit with how many shows I have right now.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, like, if I can add another one to the rotation. Like, I got pretty terrible shows I already watch. Like Kevin Can Wait. That's in rotation because I still think it's just.
Good God, man!
I still just think it's Doug Heffernan, like, divorced and now with his new family.
Yeah, I can see that. The Good Place is funny. I would watch The Good Place.
All right. That might be a summer show when there's like no basketball on, and I don't feel like watching like Sunday baseball.
Yeah, I would suggest The Good Place to people. And you only watch funny shows, right?
Yeah, and like then I watch like terrible. Like, I still watch The Challenge, and then I watch Hunted. That's a great terrible reality.
You like watch The Bachelor and stuff too, don't you?
Absolutely. I've been on that for a while. I've been in Real World, God, since I was in high school. Been on The Challenge since like high school. Mm-hmm. Those two have always been like my secret go-tos. Like, I still wish Jersey Shore was around. I'd still watch that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love terrible reality shows. I absolutely love them.
Yeah, I can't do terrible reality shows. I have too many other things going on in my life to where I'm just like, I can't do this, man. I can't do it. Anything else that you want to talk about? Do we get any other fun questions that you wanted to chat about?
One more I want to see if we agree on. I don't remember who asked it, but I remember the question exactly. It was, what would be the one rule that you would change in college basketball? And I think we would agree on it, but I want to see
charge, in some way. Just the charge.
Yeah, it was, if you could make one rule change in college basketball, what would it be? I think it would be like at least defensive 3 seconds to try to take away more charges.
Yeah, give me a second. I have the exact rule like written down somewhere that I can tell you. It's no charges when the offense is in the air. Charges on the ground are fine. Essentially.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I didn't know if there was if anything else that you would really want to switch.
Yeah, like if you do no charges when the offense is in the air, I think that what it does is like it incentivizes players to jump and actually try and make a play on the ball, like instead of just standing there and holding their nuts.
Right. Here's the other one I liked from JKD for 3. Top 4 seeds will be Kansas, Villanova, Gonzaga, and
I'd probably go North Carolina right now.
I would agree with that one. That's exactly who I had.
Yeah, I think those are the 4.
Baylor's not going to be a 1 seed anymore. And then I think, I don't know if Duke could in theory be a 1 seed. Like, they could win the ACC regular season and tournament, but I don't think that they would be one.
Are they within 1 game of North Carolina?
They're 1 or 2 back, but they play Carolina.
And right, they are within 1 game of North Carolina. Yeah, and North Carolina has that game at home, though. Yeah, I think I'd go North Carolina still.
I would agree with that.
I will say that I think Louisville is a better team than North Carolina. They have wins over Wichita, Purdue, Kentucky, and Indiana, good Indiana, and I think that should probably count for something in the non-con, whereas North Carolina has Wisconsin, which is really their only non-conference win. So, if like Louisville can get this thing righted and really decide to, win the ACC and do their work, because they also play North Carolina here on Wednesday, but North Carolina has that game at home too. So I'd say one of North Carolina or Louisville.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So anything else you want to chat about before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it.
Tell the people where they can find your work.
BarstoolSports.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Barstool Reags. I tweet everything out on there, links to everything, all that good stuff. So go ahead and follow me on there. I love interacting. You can yell at me. I'm used to it. Let me know who you're a fan of, though, so I can mark down if I hate your team or not. I'm keeping a running tally of how many teams I officially hate.
Yeah,
based on who tells me.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, I want to see if I can hit all the schools.
Yeah, if you hate all of the schools, really, you just love them all, right?
You can only love something as much as you can hate it.
That's true. That is very true.
So
obviously, you can find my work on basically my Twitter page. The best way to put that is I'm writing a thing weekly at Vice. I'll have a second thing at Vice this week on the trade deadline. I will, I guess, have more podcasts this week. That matters to you guys as well. I'm going to try and do just where people stand in terms of the Bubble podcast on either Wednesday or Friday. I'll probably do another NBA draft podcast coming up here because I haven't done one in a while. Outside of that, I don't really know what else to tell you. I'll be writing some stuff at Sporting News too. But if you just keep glued here, I'm sure you'll be able to find some stuff. This podcast is powered by CLNS Radio. You can get it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Android, every place that has podcasts. I'm sure we are up on at this stage. And until next time, we will talk soon. Bye-bye.